and drink it. Like me, then tell me if you like that,
Daz has gone all Aries.
Oh no! I thought he was really moody.
Yeah, that's what I did. Welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We are here for the state of play. Lots to discuss tonight. Of course, we're going to be discussing Eddie Howe. Are you Eddie Howe in, or are you Eddie Howe out? People already in the chat giving their opinions off the bat. So please do feel free to come in with your own comments and questions. There's already questions in the chat. Feel free to throw them up and get that discussion. And we're going to talk about as well, what it all means for Newcastle United in this big Christmas schedule. Massive games coming up, including the one on Saturday at home to Leicester City. And then, of course, we'll get a little bit of transfer news in there as well, because there has been some movement today, some discussions today on one or two players. So why not discuss it? But look, whilst Daz is reconfigurating and on his way back, hopefully with a little bit of light. Chris, how are you on this fine Tuesday evening, mate?
All good, mate. I'm not gonna lie, I've been really looking forward to this show because I know we've done a lot of therapy sessions. I kind of feel like this is the final session. I feel like we're going to get a lot off our chests tonight, and everyone in the chat, as Pete's already said, get those questions in. Hit the like button as well. We don't say that often enough, but please do hit that like button. It makes a massive difference so that we can share the show far and wide. But yeah, I'm good, mate. Busy day in the office today. Bit of a mad rush to get home. Then phone calls with parents and stuff like that, which was interesting and funny. But yeah, I am very good, mate. Very good. And like I say, really looking forward to the show tonight. And yeah, talking about the state of play. I think that was a really, really good name for the show, people. How are you doing, mate? How's your day been?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Busy as always. Getting to the point now where we're close to Christmas, so we're just coming towards the end of a really busy term. But other than that, we're all good. And I'm not going to lie, the days seem to be falling quickly, and I'm desperate for them to fall quickly because I need that Saturday to come ASAP, because I need Newcastle United on that pitch winning matches for us again. That is for sure. But before we get into that, we'll get into this, and of course, as Chris has just said, we've got nearly 100 already coming into the chat. We've only been going a couple of minutes. Let's get us to a quick 100. Let's get us to a quick 100 on the likes. Why not? Go and just click the like. Only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So thank you all as well. And of course, whilst we're waiting for Daz to reconfigure, before we properly get into this, we'll get out our two tunes. So welcome into Tom with his tune. Welcome into Munch with his tune as well. Great to have you guys with us. We've got Jordan Tune for Life as well. He's already put his flag in the center spot of the ground. He's gone tune. Evening, lads and lasses. How in another half a season to go and a quarterfinal still to play as Daz comes back in as well. There are other tunes in there. Kev T, I love that. Tune, Eddie in, no debate, show over. Hey, if it was as easy as that, it would be perfect. But what's the fun in that, Kev? Hey, we don't get a chance to have a bit of a discussion, and of course, we love talking to you guys as well. Of course, we've got Claire, one of our spanners, saying give us a like. Great to see that as well. Tunes in for Toon Army. Great stuff as well. And Foxy, not quite a tune, but always a fist bump with a loaded team. And Paul, of course, with this tunes in there. There is more. We won't get into it. It was a nice segue to allow Daz to get back in and get set up and ready to go. Yeah. You've had a bit of one, haven't you? Tell us your last.
What happened? My last 5 minutes was interesting because, but the bulb above me, just that's only there a month, decided to pack in, but then there was a total power outage, and it's only come back half power for some reason. And it's not just my house; it's my mum's house as well. So it's weird, very weird. I'd say it's still linked to the storm at the weekend. That they must be trying to fix something somewhere. And anyway, there's a lot of fixing needed. That's what we're here to talk about. Not just power in Ireland.
Definitely.
Just before we move on, really nice to see this, and I think you've just started actually, Pete, or Daz has. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Mercury Dime, evening gents, new to the channel here. Off to the game versus Leicester on Saturday. We need to address this inconsistency, mate. Totally agree. And welcome to the channel. And thank you very much for joining us, mate.
Brilliant, Mercury. And you're not the only one. There's lots of new viewers to Loaded Mag and NUFC. So for anyone that is, make sure you click that subscribe. And for anyone, whether you're subscribed or not, click the notification bell, because any show that we have will give you a notification to say we're on our way, to make sure that you're there and you can be involved in every bit of content that we put out. And trust me, Christmas time and then the transfer window, we are going to be busy. That is for sure. Yeah. And I won't have any other way this month. And then we promised it last January in the summer, and we've been busy, but Newcastle United haven't. But I believe both will be busy, us and them. Yeah. So make sure you click that notification bell. We've got over 100 in the chat right now. Great to see. Let's get us to a quick 100 on the likes just before we properly get going into this, because I'm going to start off, boys, by just giving you a little bit of an audio sort of storyboard on Eddie Howe. And the reason why I'm going to do this is that I think we need to understand of where things started to change on this situation with Eddie Howe.
How far are you going back, Pete? Are you going back to when he was born?
No, not that far. Not that far. I was thinking about going back to when we lost at Sheffield United. Remember that? We lost to Sheffield United under Steve Bruce. Fraser gets sent off. It was a shocking night. That was the night where I first said I wanted Eddie Howe.
Yeah, you did.
That was the first night that I said I wanted Eddie Howe at that point.
Because Ryan Fraser, it was on the byline, wasn't it? And it was like a show of petulance, wasn't it? You just knew he just wanted to get off the pitch.
He wanted to get off the pitch, and he wanted Bruce sacked that night. And we were all convinced he was going to get sacked, and he never.
Best thing he did.
So I was going to go back to that night, but I'm not. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with just after the win against Man United, the game that Pope got injured. At that point, we were fourth in the league, best defensive record in the Premier League, and we looked like we were going to be on the trajectory to keep going and doing what we did the previous season. Okay, so this is where we're kind of going to start from. So we went through that December. Okay, we apart from Fulham, we lost every game. Okay, we didn't have a great time. We were conceding goals. There was the Tottenham and Everton quick turnaround, those two games in which we lost with Dubravka in goal. I think we might have hit back with a win against Fulham. Then we had the really poor performance against Luton, where we should have won, and then we have Forest on Boxing Day. So really like poor performances overall. So, and it was at that point where fans, particularly after the Luton and Forest game, fans started to hear a little bit of rumbles with regards to Eddie Howe. We obviously had the excuses of the injuries and various other things that were hampering us. Took us into the new year, lost at Liverpool, but then won the derby. The derby definitely made things feel a little bit better. We then got the big win against Aston Villa. And then it was very much in and out in terms of performances at that point. There were still rumbles, though, and you could still hear the rumbles. We discussed it on Loaded Mag and NUFC. The rumbles were there. What I will say, to caveat that as well, is that we had the January transfer window. The January transfer window, which we've just said, came with a lot of promise. We talked about it. We covered it. We were expecting players to come in. A goalkeeper was to come in. There was going to be that right winger that we all anticipated that was potentially coming through the door. We got absolutely nothing. But as well as that, boys, we also had the rumours and the murmurs of a rift between Eddie Howe and Dan Ashworth. So we had that in the middle of all of these bad performances. So this has started way back. We've had some up and downs in terms of performances. We had the real poor loss to Arsenal, but we got wins at home to Wolves, really convincing win, played really well. We had some up and down results along the way. Then we had the news that Dan Ashworth was going on gardening leave, and that was the big thing. The fallout had meant that he'd left. We then had an upturn in form after the loss at Chelsea. We were there. The West Ham game, the big West Ham game, and we went on a run of games, Tottenham as well being a notable win. There was Sheffield United, there was Burnley, and we seemed like we were picking up points to get to where we were going to. Things started to change a little bit. Things started to change. Eddie Howe murmurs of negativity were starting to disappear. There was more positives. Let's give Eddie Howe another season, give him the next season to turn it around because we're going to get all these players back fit. We then have a real turn of performances at the back end of the season, notably Brighton and Man United away. Brighton at home, poor results. Okay, drew, should have won. That was the big game that was going to almost kind of guarantee us European football. We didn't get it. We then lost to Man United. That gave Chelsea the advantage and brought Man United back into the mix. We then beat Brentford last game of the season. We thought 7th place would do it. Man United win the FA Cup. It throws everything out. Then into the summer, we've got a situation where we don't know what's happening with regards to our players. Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, 3 players, our 3 main players are all linked with moves away. Heavily linked with moves away during that time, as well as the PSR debacle on the back of that. To add to this, we've got Eddie Howe linked with the move to England. Paul Mitchell comes in. We've got that debacle that happens. We've had all of these things that have constantly come in to play. Fans in the summer frustrated, almost blaming Eddie Howe at this point. Most or lots siding with Paul Mitchell because Eddie Howe apparently only wanted Mark Gay. We didn't get him. That then ultimately was laid at Eddie Howe's feet and not Paul Mitchell's for a long part of it. But we think, let's get into the season. We've got all our players back. Sandro's back. We're going to turn it around 1 game a week. The season doesn't start the way we do. We get points on the board, but performances aren't there. Eventually, we get our performances, but then the results don't match those performances. Fulham, Everton. We get a decent point at Man City, but then we're dropping other points in between. We then get an upturn with those 3 games: Chelsea away, Chelsea at home, Arsenal at home, Forest away. We think we're getting it back, and that Eddie Howe's found the formula finally. Turns out it's not. And what we're seeing right now, which brings us back to this point, is that we are in a mess. We don't know as fans what type of performances we're going to get week in, week out. We don't know whether certain players are happy at the moment at Newcastle United. We don't. There's rumours out there that potential moves are on the cards. We don't know who our best 11 is. We don't know who the best 11 is right now that Eddie Howe wants to pick. And we don't know, okay, what team is going to turn up on Saturday at Leicester, at home to Brentford in the quarterfinal, and then away at Ipswich. So we're in this position where we've had this going on now for a year, and the murmurs and the rumours and the noises around Eddie Howe are starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger, which has now brought us to this point. So we're now having a conversation as part of our state of play where we are asking the question to the fans and people that are watching this channel right now. Are you Eddie in or Eddie out? Now, just to add to that very quickly, here is, if you haven't already seen it, here is our Premier League table. Okay. Currently, as it stands, oh, that's not it.
Hey, I like that. I liked that on the poster. Don't fall behind your rivals.
Yeah,
It's a bit
Richard
late for
Masters,
that.
you owe us for sponsorship there.
Absolutely. 12th in the league after 15 games, 5 wins, 5 draws, 5 losses.
Ooh.
Scored 19, conceded 21. We've conceded more goals than we've scored so far this season. And that's our record, boys, with Leicester to come up next. So we're approaching, boys, the halfway point of the season. And so I'll ask you the same question again. Are you Eddie in or are you Eddie out? Boys,
Well,
take it away.
first of all, Pete, for that summary, you get one of these because it was a nice glimpse into the past and up to present day. And I don't have an answer for you, as in because I'm still waiting for what's going to happen over the next 3 games. As people are sick of hearing me saying now.
Get your poster up, Daz. Get it up.
Sorry, I'll get the same picture that people are
up.
sick of looking at. My little poster, yes, of the fixtures. Yeah, so. As we said, I said it targeting December. What can you do, Eddie? What can the team do as well as Eddie Howe? We know who we are, 3-3 at Liverpool, 4-2 loss against Brentford. But yeah, the big ones here are coming. That's lying in wake, because that Leicester game, if we don't get a win, I personally, I don't care if we win 1-0 or 10-0. I know, lads, you've been saying that you want a big statement, but a win is a win. We need. It would be nice to get a big win, but I just want a win on the board after where we've been in the last little while. And also then that to take us into and I want the lads to be up for it as well. We're at home, obviously, and then leading into the cup. And how can they not be up for playing in the cup? Our probably our only chance of winning something. I know the FA Cup hasn't happened yet first, but of winning something this year. And then if we were to get 2 wins there, absolutely brilliant. Delighted. I think that would actually be enough for the Eddie rumors to die down, because for me it's only at this point could we make a change, as in that going into that Ipswich game, but we get over that Ipswich game as well. But and then this is another challenge for us, because playing away from home, we can't play away from home, even though the way it's last year and this year, we cannot play away from home. So I'm focusing on those three games, and I want to see what happens on Saturday, on Wednesday, first, and then leading us into that Saturday. But and after that, if we lose all 3 of them, I will be on the Eddie outside. Yes, but for now, I'm Eddie in, and I want him to him and the players, because it's not just Eddie, it's the attitude of the players as well that he's alluded to in the Liverpool game and obviously into the Brentford game as well. He talked it up, but yeah, so that's where I am. I'm still I don't want to go too early here and say one way or the other, but I'm Eddie in until at least the Ipswich game.
Okay. So I'm going to break this down a little bit differently for you, for both of you. I think you've given me kind of your stance on this. I don't know whether you want to give me your stance on this, Chris, and then I come to what I'm going to come to next.
Yeah, I can do, mate. Yeah, it's quite easy for me. Similar to Daz, I'm not Eddie in or Eddie out at the moment. However, what I will say is, I think Eddie is going out. That's how I see it. And the reason I say that is because I look at those fixtures, and to me, I know you said last night, Pete, and totally agree with you, by the way, that we need to win. We need to win the next 4 games, and I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. I'll be deadly honest. From what I've seen so far this season, from what I know, inconsistency United, I just don't see it happening. I genuinely think. This is my gut now. I think we'll get maximum points against Leicester at the weekend, but I don't think it'll be convincing. I think we'll scrape it, and I think we'll win against Brentford. I think we'll go through in the Carabao Cup. But I genuinely think that we will lose to Ipswich. I'm convinced of it. And if we lose to Ipswich, we then go into the Villa game. And I wonder then whether, well, that's if Eddie Howe's still in charge for the Villa game. I'm not 100% sure that he will be. But if he is, I think Boxing Day could be a miserable one. That's how I see it. So the problem for me is it's not. I'm not sitting here saying Eddie Howe's got to go. Eddie Howe, like everyone watching this channel will know we're all big fans of Eddie Howe and we're all very grateful for what Eddie Howe's done. But for reasons that I'm sure we're probably going to get into throughout this show, I don't believe that these players are going to turn things around for Eddie Howe. That I just can't see us putting a run of games together that is required. I think in order to squash these rumours or kind of secure Eddie's place for a longer term future, I just cannot see us putting the wins together in order to do it. And the only way that I see Eddie Howe still in charge at the end of the season is by him constantly doing what he's doing now, winning, losing, winning, losing. But that is going to end up with us roughly where we are, maybe slightly higher. And a mid-table finish come the end of the season is not going to be good enough. So, as we've seen in the top table talk with the lads, with Wolfie, with Dan, with Charlie, all the lads who have kind of passed their opinions on Eddie Howe, it does make you wonder, and this is why maybe everyone's been so vocal about it. Are we flogging a dead horse? With all due respect, is this going to change, or are we just going on longer through a period that we know there's not going to be light at the end of the tunnel? I just cannot see us winning those 4 games. That's just where I am, and I don't know if anyone else in the chat agrees with that. I just don't see it. But Pete, before you go on to your segment, where are you? Or is this part of the segment?
No, it's because we can have a generalized opinion, but I do want to break it down. So for me, I'm always going to back Eddie Howe. I am going to back Eddie Howe to turn this around because he's done so much already. Now, a lot will turn around and say, well, he doesn't look like he's doing much at the moment. And yes, absolutely, I think there's reasons for that. But whilst there's still an opportunity to turn it around, I do feel like we should give him a chance. However, I'm very although I'm supportive of him, I am very cutthroat at the same time. And some might say, well, how can you be both? Well, I am. And the reason being is because I'm still behind Eddie Howe and I still think he can turn it around. However, he has to win these next 4 games. And I'm not talking losses. I'm not talking draws. They're not good enough. Of course, the quarterfinal has to be decided on that night. You cannot tell me that this current team is not good enough to beat Leicester City at home. And there's people in the chat tonight that are concerned about the fact that we can do that. That worries me.
Yeah.
That worries me.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Obviously, my Leicester links, of course, but equally, when you break it down, Leicester City, we should be picking 3 points at St James's Park, no doubt about it.
All day.
Equally, and some people like yourself, Chris, you're worried about Ipswich. I'm not worried about Ipswich. You know why? It's because I expect us to win. I expect us to win. So I'm not worried about it. If we don't win, you'll see a different reaction from me. But I'm going into that game going, relegation battle, battling Ipswich, can't win a game full of no money. We go there and win. We go there and win. And that should be the mentality of the players.
Yeah, sure.
And then after that, cup aside for the second, we then go to and play Villa at Boxing Day at St James's Park, in which we have a good record against them at our place.
Yeah,
anyway. Whether they've been in great form, whether they've been in rubbish form, we have a good record against them. And I expect us to turn up again and put a good performance in. So for me, that is a minimum. 3 Premier League wins in a row. It has to happen, because if it doesn't, the gap is going to be too big or going to take too long to claw it back. Okay. Now you look at the Premier League table already. There is already a gap starting to emerge, and I'll just whip it up just for a second, just so we can see it if we can. There it is. Premier League table there. You look at where Newcastle United are, okay? There's already a 3-point gap between us and 10th place Fulham. Might not sound like a lot, but it is, because you need to win your matches in order to be pushing them. We're already 4 goals difference in goal difference, so we might not even still get into the top 10 after this weekend coming up. We may still not. So that's already a gap emerging. Then you've got 4 points. You've got to get 2 wins if you're going to be pushing yourself into the top 8 and hoping those 2 teams don't win in terms of Bournemouth and Brighton. And then you've got 5 points a gap between Forest and Villa. So already the gap's emerging. So if we're in a position where we're dropping points in any of these next 3 Premier League games, that gives the other teams above us the opportunity to keep pushing. And for me, we cannot afford to do that now. We can bemoan and we can say, yeah, okay, frustration about West Ham, still pissed off about that, by the way. Watching them last night, they're shocking. They only just beat an even worse team in Wolves. And to be fair, Lawless would admit that as well. Even though they won, he ain't happy with that performance. And right, exactly. Shocking. So we should be annoyed that we did not beat West Ham. We should be even more annoyed that we didn't beat Palace. Regardless of our performance, we were 1 minute away from taking that win, and we should have taken that win. Okay, and then you've got Brentford. Brentford are there for the taking. They've pretty much conceded just as many goals as anyone else. I think maybe even the most in the Premier League. And so we should have been putting them to the sword, because we had one of the best defensive records in the Premier League before that game on Saturday. Now it's not. So if you look at that, as it works out, we should have been putting them to the sword. We didn't, because we didn't turn up in the second half. And you're looking at that and we're going, okay, fine, those results are gone. But we have to now win these games, because otherwise the gap's going to emerge. So for me, I am supportive of Eddie Howe, because I do believe he can turn it around, but he has to win these 4 games. And I tell you what, if he doesn't win these games and he starts losing a couple of them, okay, it ain't going to be about me saying whether I'm Eddie Howe in or Eddie Howe out. The noises around, whether you want them or not, will be too big and too loud for people to ignore it. Now, you've already got Luke Edwards. You've already got 1 or 2 of the other journalists that are already trying to play it down. Luke Edwards has gone in with the support for Eddie Howe, and that's fine. He's got a good relationship with Eddie Howe. I get it. I understand it from that point. He wants to protect that. But if we're not getting points and we're not getting performances on the board, nobody is above criticism. And the one thing I'll say is Eddie Howe is not above criticism at all, but neither are the players. And they need to turn it around as well. So at this point right now, okay, I am...
Before you move on, just like I know you've been saying in the last show and tonight about the 4 games, but I keep bringing it back to 3, because if Eddie Howe was to win those 3 games, a win at Leicester, convincing or scrape it, stay in the cup and into the semi-final, and get an away win, to me he's safe, and he should be safe, because the ownership will see, well, he can do it in the cup, and that's our best chance of silverware. Let's keep him. Let's keep him for the rest until the end of the season, and I would go along with that. And also, if we drag it on, I'm not going to bring up the picture again. People are sick of looking at the picture. You're into the 26th of December. It's very late before the window opens to go making a change. Then let's say if they said no, he has to win the 4, and he wins 3 and loses against Villa. Like, it's very late to try and make a change there, and you're straight into the Man United match as well before the window opens. So I just that's everyone has a different way of looking at it, but that's my way of looking at it. That it's a good point. It's a good point.
But I agree with that, Daz. I agree with that. If he can get those 3 or 4 wins up until that Boxing Day, he will then get the January to turn it around. And lads, I'm not going to lie, I am more convinced. I know the journalists keep saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if they're going to buy blah 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 this that and the other." I am more convinced now than ever that we are going to be signing players in January. We are going to be, because I cannot think anything different, boys. If we don't sign players in January, and I don't care what excuse they give, whether we can't sell players or not, blah, 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 whatever. If we don't sign players for the first team in January, this club is neglecting that squad of players. It is neglecting that team. That team is crying out for a new centre-back. It is crying out for a right winger. It is. It needs something new. The players that we've got, that we laud, by the way, okay, Isaac just getting his scoring boots on now, fair enough. Bruno in and out in performances. Tonali in and out in performances, partly because he doesn't start games regular. Joe Linton, very fluctuant in his performances. One day good, one day shit. Like, he's literally like that on a week-to-week basis. You don't know what Joe Linton you're going to get. Anthony Gordon, I've already been very vocal on him. He has to be doing more for Newcastle United if he wants to be getting paid the big bucks, like your Isaacs, like your Brunos. He needs to be putting in big boy performances, and at the moment he is not. Okay, we need more from Harvey Barnes, but we need to see him more. For me, I expect him to start on Saturday. I'll be honest with you. I'm giving you an away days preview. I think he'll start. For the fact that he scored his goal at the weekend, and on the back of that, he's playing against his old club. I don't see anything other than Harvey Barnes starting at the weekend. But then you've got Fabian Schär. He was shocking on Saturday. Awful. He's having very much up and down performances. Nick Pope. Chris, you've talked about it quite openly. Not good enough at the moment. Really, really poor performances. These players are letting this team down. They need to be better. They have to be better. And yes, we can put it on Eddie Howe, and rightly so, because he's the manager. His neck's on the chopping block. But these players need to turn up as well and drive through a brick wall for these players. Because you know what, lads? You know what frustrates me about this? Is that I'm looking at players and I'm not seeing them giving 100% on the pitch. I don't know if I'm wrong. People in the chat, Daz, Chris, tell me differently. I don't see these players giving the same 100% energy on the pitch like they were beginning of last year and certainly the year previous. I don't see it. Are you seeing the same as me?
Yeah. I am. Apart from the Liverpool game, of course. But then again, and someone put it in comments on Twitter or X today that they pointed towards Bournemouth and the end of Eddie's reign at Bournemouth, and they keep repeating back saying that this is the same pattern of that happened with Bournemouth. Is it a case that players are just worn out, as in they've reached a peak? They reached that peak with the league. We got the time we got in the Champions League. Then the injuries killed people off, and then on top of that, throw in the promises and the expectation that we're going to be. And it's the players themselves that have to get us to that higher level as well. That they again link it back to what you're saying about, but so that's why I'm. It's all eyes on the next few games to see what happens, and I don't think we should be afraid to pull the trigger though if we need to. We can people again was mentioned on previous shows. People link back to look where we were when Eddie Howe came in. Look at where he got us, and yes, they're all solid points. But where are we going? And Chris, you mentioned, where's the path we're going into the future? And is it if it's the same pattern over and over again? We're better than that. That's fine in an Ashley era. He'd be delighted with that era because we're staying in the Premier League. We want to get into Europe. We want to eventually get back into the Champions League. We want to go further than that. And it's not also about winning every game. Like we all know there's wins, draws, and losses every season. But it's just the manner of how we're going out at the moment in a bit of a whimper. You read out a load of results in this season, and you can link back to next season as well. So,
okay. So what I wanted to do, just wanted to break it down a little bit, because we've given our kind of general feel of where we are with the Eddie Howe, and so many people in the chat are giving their own perspective on it. It's great to see the comments and the opinions of loads of people in the chat, and just make sure we're getting ourselves up. We've got just under 200 in the chat. Make sure we let's try and get the 200 likes. Come on, people, you know what it makes sense. It takes only a second to click the like button, but it means everything to us. So thank you for your support. But boys, I want to ask you. Let's break it down. What are you frustrated with regards to Eddie Howe at the moment? Well, why is there a question mark? And people in the chat, put your opinion, Jimmy. Why is there a question mark, if there is one, of Eddie Howe at the moment? What's frustrated you about him sort of within the last year that makes you at this point consider the possibility of another manager? So what is it that you've seen? What is it that you've heard? What has been happening with regards to Eddie Howe that's the frustration?
I can go in there first, Chris, if you want. For me, off the top of my head, the no plan B in games, and we did try one, the 4-4-2, and that was a disaster. And if you remember back to last season, where we were decimated by injuries, but he insisted on playing the same players and not giving youth the chance in some cases. Look at Elliot Anderson. Elliot Anderson may not have been sold if we had got more games as well as that. I know as a PSR reason why he's not with us anymore, but there was opportunities to play him in different games. He did play Miley, of course. Alex Murphy is another case who's crying out for game time. And like there's more coming through as well that could have played a bit of a role, especially when things weren't going our way last year. Just sticking with the same 11 really, game on game. That's two things off the top of my head that have annoyed me.
Anything for you, Chris? Anything to add that maybe Daz hasn't said about what's annoyed you in the last year that Eddie Howe has done that's got us to this point?
Annoyed me. I'd say
you just
or just observations. I think for me it's team selection. I think that's probably been the biggest one for me. It's about finding the right players to fit the right system. And again, going back to systems, it just feels like Daz has kind of alluded to it already, we only tend to have one system. I thought we'd see a lot more innovation. I thought we'd see a lot more changes, mixing things up. And to be honest, from Eddie Howe's earlier days, I feel like, how many times do we used to say when we come on here, oh, it's tactical brilliance, we just made these couple of tweaks and all of a sudden, we were progressive, we improved. I always felt like with Eddie Howe, there was a lot of analysis of the opposition going on. And, I always felt like we had the upper hand because our manager was that intense and, he was that switched on about the opposition and really drilling down into how they play, where the danger signs are. Like I'll be honest, in recent times, like that West Ham goal where Souček scored, that really irritated me. And whether or not that's off the back of our set pieces being absolutely shocking, I don't know. But simple things like that, and I don't think we saw that previously. There's no way that Souček is left unmarked in that box to score that goal for West Ham. It's absolutely criminal. Even us lads, us three basic lads, if we were to go into training with Newcastle and we would see, and they go, all right, you're playing West Ham, it's set pieces. Who's the one person that you might want to keep an eye on? We'd all know. We're not West Ham fans, but we all know. Oh, it's Souček. You need to keep an eye on Souček. Saw it again last night with Wolves. Exactly the same thing. And it's little details like that. So that's annoyed me. I think having someone with the talent and capability of Sandro Tonali and seemingly not being able to put him in the team. Another thing that's this has irritated me. The fact that we as fans and journalists, they've all said it, about us seemingly being desperate for a number 6. If we're playing this 4-3-3, you need a good number 6. You look at some of the best teams in the league, City, for example, who had Rodri. Look at the hole he's left. When Eddie Howe came out and said, "Oh no, we've got 3 or 4 number 6s." Now, to me, I don't think we've got 3 or 4 number 6s. He may believe we have, and I'm sure Eddie probably knows better than me. But that's not what we're seeing on the pitch because he's playing the same person in number 6 all the time, which is Bruno Guimaraes. He's only recently moved Sandro Tonali in. But when you think we've had Sandro Tonali for a hell of a long time now, and we've all been screaming for that. We've also said, boys, haven't we? And again, I'm sure there's reasons why. You know, why have we not looked at Joe Linton as number 6? Given the type of game that he plays, like, why has that not been tried out? Why have we not?
I'd be afraid of that.
Well, no, but just in terms of his cleaning up and his physicality, and he gets about the pitch. I don't know, but anyway, I'm probably going off on a tangent there. I'm
in goal though. One.
But yeah, no, I think the big thing for me, the thing that's disappointed me most recently, and I feel for Eddie on this one. The thing that's disappointed me most recently, Pete, is the reaction, the attitude, the mentality, if you like, of the players. That's what's disappointed me, because these players 12, 18 months ago would have ran through a brick wall for Eddie Howe. We saw it in the Champions League. We were desperately low on numbers in the Champions League. I think at one point we had 13 or 14 fit players, and they were playing week in, week out, you know, trying the very best. Obviously, they'll be doing it for themselves to a degree, given that they're on the big stage, but we're just not seeing that anymore. And last season, all we did was make excuses for injuries, which was quite right. This season, we don't have that excuse. We've literally got one significant player out at the moment, which is Sven Botman. We've got no European football, plenty of time to prepare. And the sad thing for Eddie Howe is, and again, I always say this, but again, we'll probably touch on it a bit later. The sad thing for Eddie Howe is there is no excuses. And I feel like these players are letting him down. But ultimately, the only person who's responsible for that, or the only person who's going to end up with the head on the chopping block, is the manager. And that's unfortunate, but that's how it is. If you can't get these players to play for you, or they've lost faith in your ability, they don't believe in your training methods anymore, they don't believe in your tactics anymore, that's a problem. Whether you like it or not, that is a problem. If you've got people leading you, if you're a leader, you're a manager in any walks of life, if you've got a team under you and they don't believe in you, or they don't trust you, or they don't, think that you're managing them correctly, you've got a big problem, a really big problem, and that calls for change. And to me, that's been the biggest thing for me, particularly this season. The biggest thing for me has been the seemingly lack of confidence or belief from the players, and there is one. There is one. People can say that there isn't. There is. These players aren't given 110% for Eddie Howe, and the sad thing is, Pete, he knows that. Yeah. He knows that, and that's why his attitude and his normal, calm underbelly, if you like, during interviews is really starting to come out. The anger, the disappointment, the frustration, and we're seeing cracks in Eddie's shield, which has always been up in front of the media. Eddie is like flawless, but in the last couple of weeks, everything. The main thing that we as fans and the journalists have been talking about is questioning some of the things he's saying. We've never done that. We've never done that with Eddie Howe, and that to me spells trouble.
Yeah, no, I would agree that there have been some frustrations there. Eddie Howe's not perfect. I think we all know that now, and there are. Oh, where's that gone? It's disappeared again. Eddie Howe is far from perfect, but I think he'd admit that as well. And there are things that he has done that have frustrated, for sure. Now, like things that happen on the pitch, like you touched on the Kelly and the Souček thing. I don't necessarily blame Howe for that. For me, that's more of a player issue. Daz has got a power outage again, so he will be back soon. So don't worry about that. But I think that for me is more of a player issue than an Eddie Howe issue. Like, for example, that second half performance against West Ham, that last 30 minutes. Yes, his formations and his subs maybe weren't at the right time, but eventually we had a set of players on that could have gone and won that game. But the lack of will and want on that pitch to push West Ham to try and get back into the game, that lack of will and want to push Brentford, even at 3-2, to try and get that next goal. We never looked like doing it. That isn't the manager. That's the attitude of the player. And you could circle that back to the manager. You know, why are the players like this? Could it be because of the manager? Formations, expectations, it could be all of those things. But some of these things I do look at the players for, because the players aren't giving everything on the pitch, which is what I kind of said originally. But with Eddie Howe, I'm the same as you. I'm the same as you. The persistence on certain players playing in the team. At the turn of the year last year, I'd by the end of January, I had enough of Dan Burn playing left back. And I needed to
that's another good point. Yeah,
I needed to see something different, and it really frustrated me. And you know, particularly after that game against Luton, where it was a must-win, had to win, a bit like the Leicester one at this weekend. It was a must-win, had to win, and we ended up drawing with them, only because we managed to claw it back rather than anything with regards to our brilliance. And Dan Burn that day should have been at the team, and he wasn't, and that really annoyed me. Like I say, some selection issues with Longstaff getting a game continuously this season when Sandro Tonali's back in, and people have been able to caveat that with won matches because Longstaff's in. I would argue that if Tonali had that run of games of playing week in, week out, I think we would have seen overall the team play better performances. Personally, I don't think Tonali is that bench player that can come on and do a job. Some players aren't like that come off the bench and have an impact. He doesn't seem that type of player. He's a player that needs to start, needs to know that he's playing every week. And that can be unsettling for players, not knowing whether you're going to start. I think Harvey Barnes has suffered from that as well, not knowing whether you're going to play from week to week. It can be unsettling. And I think there's times where Eddie Howe is stuck with players when he shouldn't have and he didn't need to. Miguel Almiron was one last season. Jacob Murphy was one at points that last season and this season. It needs to change. And he needs to be more ruthless in that situation. And he's got to the point now where he's having to change. So, for example, there was the comment after the Palace game, I think, annoyed so many fans, is because it wasn't a reality. We didn't play well. It wasn't a good game. And to say that we were okay and try and take positives from that, that's not what the fans need. At that moment, we needed honesty. We needed, you know what, it ain't good enough. We should have won that game. No shot on target. I need to work with these players to get them back up to speed. If we'd have gone with that mentality, I think I think fans would have got on side with that and gone, you know what? Yeah, he's been honest. He's given us something. I don't mind it when he does it in the press conferences. I haven't got an issue with it when he does the old white lie, player's not going to be fit, and then he calls in the squad. I don't mind that. I've not got an issue with that. I actually quite find it funny sometimes. But don't do it after a game where we've lost or we've drew or we've not won a game that we expected to win. And that's what I take issue with. And, you know, I like the fact, actually, after the Brentford game, he had a little bit more honesty with him in the way in which he's talking and his assessment. He needs to do more of that, and he needs to be more honest with the fans. If he wants the fans on side, if he wants the fans with him, because let's be honest, the fans will be the difference. As we've just said, Chris, if we don't get those points in the next 3 league games, up aside for a second, we don't get the points in the next 3 league games, okay, there'll be a lot of fans that won't be with him. Now, what's been really telling is fans walking out before the end against West Ham.
Oh, Pete, that was so noticeable. That, I mean, I know it was exaggerated, and people were saying like they left in like the 70th minute. I'm sure people did, but I don't think it was to the same extent. But that took me back to the Ashley days.
Yeah,
you know, where telling. People were just like, I'm done.
Yeah, it was telling. That hasn't happened in the whole time since this takeover, and that was a really telling point. What I noticed as well, and I know you were watching it as well on the Saturday, but I don't know if you watched it like a bit after the game had finished. What I noticed is the camera cut to the players clapping the fans. The away end was empty. Now, me and you know from being in away ends, like in years gone by,
it's never empty.
Newcastle fans, win, lose or draw, will always support their team. We were stood in the King Power away end.
Oh, mate, yeah.
When
I'm smiling. We got battered.
We got battered that day. What was it, 4-0? We got absolutely hammered
4-0.
that day, right? And we stood there, and at the 60th, 70th minute, Newcastle fans were singing non-stop, and we clapped the boys off, and everyone stayed to do that. That was probably, one of our worst moments that happened. That there at Brentford was massively telling. Fans were not happy with what they saw. And he needs to address that. And I hope that he's addressing that with the players this week. I'm not interested in talk. I'm sick of hearing Anthony Gordon tell us how amazing the team is and how hard we've trained this week. And Alexander Isak telling us, and Bruno telling us, and Joe Linton telling us how easy got again. Telling us how hard he's trained over the course of the week. I don't need words. I need action now. I need action from these players. I'm sick of the interviews. Great when the interviews are on and we're winning, but we need performances now. So they're the things that are frustrating. Okay, what are the things about Eddie Howe that we like, that we want to continue, for him to continue managing our club? What are the positive things about Eddie Howe that you like and you think are key to our successes in the past, potentially in the present, and hopefully in the future? Where are we at with that? Daz, I'll come to you. Since I'm not sure how long we're going to get you for.
Yeah, it is. No, I've got my light back though. That's good. That's good. Yeah, it cut out completely again. Yeah, I haven't. I suppose the family feel he brought to it, and if you remember back to his high performance interview with Jake Humphries, and he kind of gets the way he got to know all the players, and he got to know all the family members and knows their names and has that bond that he's built really. That doesn't mean anything when you're not winning games, I know, but it's just that kind of family feel that he brought to it, and you could really get behind it, and you can learn from it as well. Actually, there's some of the things from that interview you can learn from, take into your own work and own life. So he's very likable, and that's why it's hard to say negative things about him, really. He has brought an attacking, coming from the Bruce era. He's brought an attacking element to our play, and the intensity that season that we got Champions League football, the leading up to it, that was just absolutely a joy to watch. It's one of the best seasons since Kevin Keegan days, really, and the early Bobby Robson days as well. But not so much the Souness or Dalglish and everyone else in between. So that for me is what the standout. Yeah, okay. I don't mind his little intricacies that he tells a few tales in the press conferences and keeps us guessing. That's interesting as well. But there's other things. But off the top of my head, that's the intensity. I really enjoyed that. But it must take its toll on players as well, and maybe they're just drained, and maybe that's why they can't do it every game anymore.
Okay, Chris, what are the things that you like about Eddie Howe that that's got you sort of behind him previously, from what you've seen?
I think for me, the biggest takeaways about why I like Eddie Howe is obviously his professionalism. I think he comes across very professional. He takes his job very seriously. You know that you get. I think the owners know they're getting bang for the buck with Eddie Howe. He's not a shaker. He's not. We were so used to Bruce, weren't we? Like we were in turmoil, and then he go on holiday to Portugal during the break, and we were hearing that some days he wouldn't even come to training. He'd come to training like twice a week if he could be bothered. So to have that contrast, that was a massive thing.
It takes training.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a big bonus, isn't it? But I think
here's the ball. Work away.
Yeah. I think his work ethic You know, we know that Eddie Howe does ridiculously long hours. You know, he's in first thing of the morning, and he's one of, if not the last person to leave of an evening. You know that he gives his all. He moved his family up to Newcastle, you know, because he wanted to kind of commit as much as he could to the club. I think this is the sad thing, and I've described it before as like shooting Bambi, which weirdly was what I believe Freddie Shepherd described when he sacked Bobby Robson, you know, saying that like it was horrendous and he didn't want to have to do it. And obviously they were completely different situations because Bobby Robson wasn't in the position that Eddie Howe's in at the minute. But it's sad because he comes across a really nice bloke. Now you can't keep someone in their job because they're a nice bloke before anyone comes at me, but he does come across a really nice guy, and I do think he's got so much right, and you know, like, and he's provided us with some of the greatest nights and days, you know, that we've seen as fans in recent times. You know, we had all those horrible years under Steve Bruce, and then we're getting Champions League football, that memorable win against PSG. You know, you can't knock him for that, and it people may be quick to forget that, but we won't, and as I'm sure a lot of fans won't. But sadly, this all comes back, doesn't it? And it sounds cliche, but it is a results business. And if you're not getting the results for whatever reason, you know, I saw Ali in the chat, and she'd written something like, if Isaac had scored, it'd be a different game. I'm not sure which game she's referring to on that particular point, but it just feels like all season that's all we've been saying. Oh, but if that had happened, it would have been okay. Yeah. If we hadn't a drew with them, it would have been all right. If only we'd, you know, not conceded, you know, that last minute loser in you know, with a few minutes to go. It's just all ifs and buts, and there's been far too many of them this season. And this is the worrying thing, because like I say, I'm not even on the day, and it will come. You know, it's a day that will come at some point. When Eddie Howe does leave, I'm not going to be, you know, like shouting from the rooftops and, you know, waving flags and all delighted. I'm sure I'll be really, really disappointed and really upset when he does leave. But at the same time, we can't, when there's evidential problems that we can all see, we're looking at the league table, we're looking at where we were to where we are now, and we're looking at these players. And I'm not defending the players in any shape or form, because they are letting them down. But you've got to look at what you're looking at on the pitch. You've got to look at the results, and you've got to look at the performances. And for one reason or another, it's just not clicking. Some people will blame the owners. You know, they will say that the owners haven't backed them, and people in the chat have been saying it. And I agree. You know, he has been let down. But then you look on the other hand and you think, is that where the stubbornness comes in? People have been speaking about Eddie's stubbornness. There's another thing to add to his list of things that maybe I don't like about Eddie Howe. We have heard that he is incredibly stubborn, and we've kind of seen it, you know, with substitutions, with selections, and all these things are mounting up. So, you know, for me, the likes and dislikes are probably quite similar, but the dislikes are really starting to stack up now. Whereas if you'd have asked me this 12, 18 months ago, Pete, my likes would have probably been about that big. Dislikes would have been about that big. Whereas I'm now being able to reel off a few, and this is the problem, and this is when you kind of need to cut ties, and that's where I feel we're going. I don't want to go there. I've got no dislike of Eddie Howe whatsoever, but you don't want to reach that point where people are baying for his head, and people are like, he needs to leave, and I don't want to get to that point, because I am thankful for what he's done. He came in, defied all the odds, kept us up that season. Absolutely brilliant. The players responded. He brought in some really good players with the help of obviously Mandy, Meerdads, and Nixon. Brilliant. But we're not there anymore. And people referring back to that, look how far we've come, look where we were, look where we are now. That's been interesting the last few weeks. I've not heard that for the last few weeks. And that was all we were hearing at the start of the season. Because now I think people are starting to realise that's in the past. We've only got to look forward. And while we're looking forward at the moment, and I mentioned the path before, as I look forward, I cannot see a rainbow at the end of the path. I can't see it. I just cannot see it. In the past, I always used to think, oh, you know, better times are ahead. And now we're hearing that, you know, we may not even be getting any players in January. And it's just like, so where are we going? What are we doing? Now, to me, and I said this to you boys, I think I said this to you boys a few months ago. If Eddie Howe's not backed in this transfer window, the writing's on the wall. The writing is on the wall, because everybody can see that we're in desperate need of fresh players. He's even hinted it himself. We're in desperate need of a right winger and just some fresh blood to come in and really rejuvenate and reinvigorate this squad. And we're not getting it. It's not happening. Now, there's a reason for that not happening. And people, I think you mentioned this yesterday, Pete, people are saying, oh, PSR, there's PSR concerns. I'm not buying that. I didn't buy it last time, by the way, when we had to sell Minter and Anderson. But we've sold players, we've balanced the books. 3 transfer windows where we've not brought in a first team player. It can't be that bad. It can't be.
Can I get in that Chris? Because I think if it gets to a stage where that we didn't bring in anyone in January, it's more than back at Eddie Howe. It's our PIF actually interested anymore, and then I'd be thinking, is there anything going to really be announced about the stadium? Because there mightn't be any change to the stadium, because they might be moving on. If that was the case, I don't think that will happen. I think we like we're saying, I think there will be at least 1, if not 2, players coming in January, beg, steal, or borrow some way, balance the books some way, come June. But there'll be players coming in, or else there's something seriously wrong somewhere. Otherwise,
definitely. But look, it singles back to this point. And we'll come to some questions in a minute, because as Chris, you're pointing out in our private chat, there's some really good questions, so we'll definitely come to them. But it singles back to this point. You're absolutely right, Chris. There are a lot of kind of dislikes that are starting to grow with Eddie Howe, but that naturally comes with time.
Yeah,
and it naturally comes with time, particularly if you're not able to evolve what you want to do at the club. Now, and this is not me backing him or protecting him. These are facts. 2 windows without a first team ready player to freshen up this squad. No manager would benefit from not having a fresh new squad or new players to come in to improve that squad. Yeah. It's as simple as that. You're looking at Man City now. Man City, they brought Gundogan back from Barca, but who did they really bring in of any note to improve their team this season? They haven't, and look what's happening to them. They're falling apart because they've not had that fresh face, that fresh Pep, even Pep, the great Pep, and he's one of the best managers ever. He still needs players to come in to freshen up the squad, to give new life to this team. And now look what they're planning on doing. They're planning on signing 2 or 3 players in January off the back of it, because they see that if you don't improve the squad, of course not. But if you don't improve the squad, things do, in Eddie's words, become stale. So I do get what Eddie's saying there as well, and I do think it's a valid point to be said. But as we've talked about, there are certain things that Eddie's not doing that is frustrating the fans. So it's a bit of both off the back of it. For me, a lot of it is about picking the right players for the team. I said it to you boys a while ago, or the other day, I need Sandro Tonali now to play every single game. I think it was after the Liverpool game, or might have been after the Palace game. Can't remember, but he needs to play every single game. He was dropped against Brentford. I took it of he might be injured, so they're keeping him, looking after him. Turns out it wasn't, so now I'm annoyed that he wasn't starting, because he had to start. For me, Sandro Tonali has to start on Saturday and every other game moving forward. He has to. But yeah, so there's these things that are frustrating. But look, I think we've shared our points. We've shared our opinions on this. Let's go to some of the questions. Just before we do, there were some comments in here, and I'll just come to some of them because they were touched on. So when I asked the question about what annoys you about Eddie Howe, what's frustrated you about him as a manager, there were some comments in here as well. So Kev T says it annoys me when Eddie won't do style clear out of the old guard. I think it's very clear now. Trippier should have gone, Wilson should have gone, Miggy should have gone. And Longstaff probably should have gone as well. Those 4 players probably should have been moved.
And Dummett should have been gone the year before. Richie should have been gone the year before. They actually did go. You know, he intends to hold on to them a year longer than he should. And look at Wilson is obviously the case in point.
And you know what's a really interesting point, and he's touched on this as well, and we can revert this back to Newcastle, is that Ferguson was ruthless. Like Andy Cole and Dwight York and Yap Stam and players like that still thought had time left in the game. David Beckham as another example. He moved them on. He got rid of them. Even when they still had a couple of years left of a decent level, he knew when it was time to move players on. And you know who else was good at that? Kevin Keegan. Yeah, he was good at that. You know, who would have thought selling Andy Cole would have been a good move for us? Like people were on the steps going absolutely mad, and then we bring David Ginola in, we bring Les Ferdinand in, and we become a better team for it off the back of that. So, like Kevin Keegan's proven it as well. There are other managers that have done similar. You know, not just Newcastle managers, but managers over time that are ruthless. And we talked about it nearly a year ago, about him being ruthless with certain players. We need to see it still. We've not seen it to its full capacity. So I think that was an interesting point. Ian puts here, I remember fans hounding out Seba Robson and Souness replaced him, and it started a 5-year decline. Is that comparable to this situation in your opinion, boys?
No. I see where Ian's coming from, but not for me. I get that. I mean, Bobby Dobson was a generational manager. He was someone, and also, you know, we did touch on it earlier. Look at the position we were in the league, and what he'd done in previous seasons. Now, I know Eddie's last season we came 7th. The year before we came 4th, but I think the project where we are as a club, I just. Do you know what, Pete? Just to add to the negatives, and that you've touched on it, is it the lack of ruthlessness? Is it the too nice? Is this one of Eddie's big downfalls? We know that he's incredibly loyal to his players. Do you know what? I would love. I'm going to go into Keegan mode now. I would love Eddie Howe to be in a press conference and be absolutely seething and basically rip into the players, not naming individuals, but rip into the players and go, not good enough. Disgusting. I'm going to be speaking to them when I go back. You know, just something like that. And I think the last few weeks have warranted it. But again, very loyal, very supportive, and almost trying to find excuses for them. And it's like, no, but mate, that's not what we've seen. You've seen it. We've seen it. We know what's going on. And there's far too many tiptoeing. There's too much tiptoeing going on. And he needs to really go in on them.
Chris, could you do that again? Well, instead of those crackly microphones that you have, could you use these headphones with big cans on your head?
I think
it's still going. I think
it's still going.
A little bit, I think.
It's the microphone part. That's where you're speaking.
I think it's where it's catching on that. I think it won't catch anymore.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I'm going to read some of these other comments out because a few people have just made comments, so I'll just read them out to you boys. A man who refuses to drop his favourites and won't change formation. We touched on that as well. Brant said, "Why is Asula on our bench? Why isn't Miley on the bench? Why does Longstaff ever start over Tonali?" Well, yeah. I think we all agree with that. There was another one from now. Miley not even on the bench as well. It's a joke. We've got Howe is a reactive coach, not a proactive. His in-game management is laughable. I wouldn't say it was laughable, but it does question sometimes, to say the least. Peter Moore not playing Hall over his beloved Burn. We touched on that before. That sickened me. Now he's dropping Tonali, an excellent player. Miley out the picture. Asula not used at all. The list goes on. And the last one here from Kenzie. Alongside losing, when Eddie started lying to our faces, saying how well we were doing when we were shocking, was the final straw for me, I think. And I touched on that as well with regards to the, I think it was the Palace game where we were absolutely shy, and he talked about us doing all right or playing well. That was the one press or the interview after the game where I kind of stood there. I think it was that. Or it might have even been the Brentford game. I can't remember. Where
I
actually
think it was Palace.
Palace. That was the one where I kind of listened to what he actually said, and I think I said it to you boys. It's the first time I've actually gone, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't actually agree with what you're saying, Eddie. So I completely get that as well. But you want to throw some questions up, boys? Or do you want me to throw them up? It's completely up to you. I don't mind. Some good ones, isn't it?
Go for it.
Yeah, do you know what, Pete? Segue. Well, I mean, we can take turns if you want. We can maybe pick 5 each, and they're our favourite 5. Yeah. Go with that.
No worries. So, Gary D, great to have you with us. Evening, lads. Question: we have all fans saying Eddie needs to be ruthless for ages now. With the likes of Longstaff, should this apply to Eddie? Surely player has credit in the bank as well as managers. What do you think? I know we've touched on it a little bit tonight already.
Yeah.
Should like as in should Piff be ruthless with Eddie? Is that what the question?
Yes, so he's saying, we're talking about Eddie being ruthless with players, and getting rid of those players like Trippier and all the rest of it. But should that apply to Eddie as well? If he's not doing well enough, should be ruthless, get rid. A bit like Chelsea, like that, aren't they? They're very ruthless.
Well, they go overboard. They go a bit chopping and changing too much. But yeah, definitely, it should apply to Eddie. It should apply to everyone. And like we're trying to build a club that's going to be elite in the future, and we're never going to get there if we don't be ruthless when we need to be. So yes, definitely should apply to Eddie as well, Gary.
Yeah. No, I agree with what Daz has said. I think that Eddie will have credit in the bank, as will his players, as I know he's mentioned Longstaff there. But that credit will run dry eventually. And unfortunately, when you look at the league table, unfortunately that doesn't lie. And I was quite surprised actually, Pete, when you brought the league table up and it showed that we'd won 5, drawn 5, lost 5. Now, is that European form? It's nowhere near European form, and that's the issue. That's the problem. And when you're looking at the performances and people saying, "Oh, but if this has happened, and maybe if that has happened," that will only go so far. And if it's week in, week out, then clearly, a change needs to be made, in my opinion.
No, I think that's fair. Lee Jones comes in and says, question, everyone continues to go on about PSR. We haven't been great sellers. How many teams in the Premier League still have players in their teams after 8 seasons? The squad rebuild is bigger than you think. It's an interesting one, boys.
Yeah, no, good. And none of us thought that it would be this way. Like only offloading Richie and Dummett like a couple of months ago, and still holding on to Wilson, who was nearly always injured, and a number of other players as well. Miggy still have him and can't get rid of him. But have tried and it's not happening. And there's a number of players. So.
What I think what you're finding now, boys, is that the players that are still part of the squad that Bruce had are still there. Dubravka, we need rid of, can't get him out. Miggy, you've talked about Murphy, which I personally think Murphy will be there to the end of his contract. I think it's 2027 his contract runs out. He'll be there, he'll see his contract out, and then
as long as Eddie's there.
Yeah. I think even then I think he will. I don't think teams will want to pay any money for him, and I think at the same time he's just happy being part of Newcastle United in that squad. He is the classic squad player. But you've got Fabian Schär, you've got Jamal Lascelles, like they're all plus 30 now that are still in that squad. And sounds horrible to say, but Joe Linton, I know he just signed a new deal, but Joe Linton is maybe not right at the front of that conversation, but he's probably further back, but still part of that conversation. The concern I have, boys, is our initial window our first window, Trippier, Burn, and let's say Target. 3 out of that 4, forget Bruno for a second, 3 out of that 4 probably need to leave the club. And that's the worrying thing. So our new takeover signings are now looking like they need to move on. And let's be honest, boys, we're not going to recoup anything for those players. Nothing. And like, I know me and Chris are probably like overvaluers. We overvalue.
We do it sometimes, Pete. You know, now and again.
We get there sometimes. Daz is probably more of a realistic.
I half whatever you say. I half it. That's the rule.
So keep an eye out for that in the transfer for the transfer shows, people, because that will probably be the case. But you're not going to get a lot for Target. He barely kicked a ball in a year. Burn, he'll probably just see out his contract and go. And then you've got the likes of Trippier, which you'll be lucky. Like, I think I said 8 million to 10. You're probably lucky.
We were happy with 8.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm dealing at 8. I'm dealing at 8 and saying
Someone said he wanted to get a free transfer as well. But there's a scale there as well. Like you've mentioned Target. He's one that should be going out before. Like you mentioned Burn is off that list is the last one to leave because he's doing the job for us and he has done for so long and being a leader as well. Yeah. Oh yeah. So like there's a scale there.
You kind of expect Burn to become the Jamal Lascelles when we all expect Jamal Lascelles to leave.
Yeah. And he deserves it.
Yeah. And he'll see out that. But again, Fabian Schär needs. I think now we're seeing that there's a need to be turned over, which you can then understand why maybe Eddie Howe was so adamant that if we were only going to get one player, we wanted Mark Gay for that reason. I'm not saying it was right to only have him as a target, but you can see why there was such a need to get that level of player, because what we're seeing now is there is a clear need for someone like him or that sort of skill set to come in and do a job. So it is a bit of a concern there, but yeah.
Just to touch on this, I'll go to the part about the selling. And I think, you've been very generous in your words there, Lee, saying we haven't been great sellers. I think we've been terrible sellers, really bad sellers. Kieran Trippier, not doubting his leadership, not doubting what he's done for us since he joined, not doubting his capability and his ability. But when 13 million comes on the table for a 33-year-old, you take it. We saw it, and we've repeated this before. We saw it when Bobby Robson sold Gary Speed. I think it was for 750 grand or $500,000, whatever it was. And he later on went to say, I shouldn't have done that. He has a couple more years left in him. But that was him thinking of the club, thinking of the money, being ruthless. When that money came in for Kieran Trippier, we bought him for 12 million. We had an opportunity to make money on Kieran Trippier, and Kieran Trippier wanted to go. But that insistence on keeping him, and we've now got seemingly an unhappy Kieran Trippier, who's now a year older, and we're not going to get anywhere near 13 million for him. Not going to get anywhere near it. That is an example of a bad deal. Miggy Almiron, we should have. There should have been an insistence or a priority to get him a move somewhere. I'm not suggesting that we should have forced him to go to Saudi Arabia, but there should have been a plan B. There should have been, right, okay, well, where do you want to go? And then there should have been an idea of trying to get, try and be proactive. Try and find a new club for Miggy Almiron. It's clear now Miggy Almiron is going to leave. I think he will leave in January because of the limited amount of football that he's had. And you alluded to that, Pete, in that was the message that Eddie Howe needed to send out to him. And I think the message has been loud and clear and it's been received. But we're not going to get anywhere near the 30 million that Ben Jacobs was talking about from Saudi Arabia. We're nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. I think we'll be lucky to get 10 million. Genuinely.
That annoys me, mate. Honestly.
It's a bad business decision.
We had that nearly 30 million in the bank ready last January. That would have changed the outlook of what happened in the summer, but so much.
Yeah.
Even if we're not signing him.
Fulham were interested in him.
Yeah.
Did Fulham come in and offer 20 million? Why not take that deal? We saw Fulham paid Everton. I think it was something stupid like 28 million for Iwobi. Why not try and get the deal done? But again, is that an insistence from Eddie? No. If we're not bringing in a replacement, I'm keeping him. Matty Target. There was a rumor that a loan deal was agreed with another club, but Eddie Howe said no, I want to keep him. Again,
I think it was Forest, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think it was Forest. Now they've got a replacement.
Yeah, a mistake.
Yeah,
a real mistake.
Matt Target goes to the Championship now. He doesn't go to a Premier League club, in my opinion, which would have been the case at the back end of last year. But it's the same thing now. 27 million for Miggy. Now we're expected, by all accounts in the reports that we've seen, that we're going to get 12. We'll be lucky to get 12.
If that.
And we would have had 13 for Trippier last January.
Yeah.
You look at it now, and if Daz's calculations are probably right, we get 4 for him. That's, I mean,
5.
like, all right.
Cheers, Daz.
Cheers, thank you.
One for luck.
It brings us close.
and then Matty Target. We could have insisted. All right, yeah, you can have him on loan, but we want an obligation in there. Let's call it 5 million. We're not getting 5 million for Matty Target now. It's not going to happen. So again, but we're keeping hold of a player that we might need him. It could be useful. Oh, let's just keep hold of him, just to be safe, just to be sure. And now we're in a position where we're going to have to, release them or let them go for minuscule money. And this is the problem. I think this is why it's kind of come to a halt a little bit. Callum Wilson. Nobody wanted Callum Wilson to leave, but we all knew he had injury problems. We're now facing Callum Wilson leaving or discussing with another club in January for a free move. Again, could we have cashed in earlier? I'm not suggesting it was the right thing to do, but would another manager have gone, do you know what? Bit dodgy, but yeah, if we're getting good money, get him gone. It's looking forwards and trying to see what's going to happen before it happens. And I know that's not easy to do, but us as fans now, we could look at it and go, Sean Longstaff. We kind of know I don't expect Sean Longstaff to be here in the next 2-3 years, because I think as soon as a new manager comes in, you'll find that quickly he will end up being moved on from the club. I mean, look at Manesca at Chelsea. He came in like a bat out of hell and was like, "You're not in the squad. You're not in the squad, and you're not in the squad." And people were like, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that."
Look at Ben Chilwell.
Yeah, he basically said, "You're not in my plans." Sorry. He did it with a few big name players. But look at where Chelsea are now.
Yeah,
because he's been ruthless.
Raheem Sterling.
Yeah,
is a perfect example.
Yeah, don't want him.
Plugged him off for Arsenal. Now Arsenal will plug him back. They don't want him.
Yeah.
He better get.
I really hope he never ends up with those. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he ain't gonna end up at it as well.
No.
Trevor Chalobah. He done it with Trevor Chalobah. That was the name I'm trying to think of. He made it clear, I don't want Trevor Chalobah. Trevor Chalobah's now at Crystal Palace. Good luck to him. But he made it clear. What? Sorry.
He said Conor Gallagher as well.
Oh no, I didn't mention Conor Gallagher. Yeah, another one. He was just like, don't want him. Want him gone. And it's that ruthlessness.
But that's where I feel Paul Mitchell comes in, and he has to lay down the law that we need to sell this, or this is going to happen. Like because we have previous examples to go by, we have to sell now certain players when their value is there's still value in them, in selling them.
Yeah. You might not want to sell them. I mean, again, maybe for another show, I don't know, but because I know we've got loads more questions to get through. But is this the conversation? Is this the conversation we're having over Bruno? Is this the time? I know, Daz, you don't want to hear it, but we know he's not going to get any younger. We know that we need to raise funds. Do you want to lose Isaac? I don't.
Bruno's going to go. Bruno's
going to go eventually. He's going to
go. He could go in somewhere, yeah. Because if we're not in Europe, I think he's definitely gone. But selling them to City, and I'm not going to start again. But selling them to City in January.
Who's going to buy him though, Daz? I've got two clubs in mind that there's only two clubs in mind that I think that Bruno will go to, and you've just said the other one. City or PSG. They're the only ones that will probably be able to afford a player of his ability. And to be fair, they're probably the only two clubs that I'd want him to go to. That would be goes to PSG, back to France. He can win a few.
But I
league
don't want to be
titles there.
looking at him every week in the Premier League and just going, it's like an X.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing that will still grind on us as fans. But go into a team that's probably more likely than not to go hit back and win the league the next year afterwards. You're kind of going, all right, he's going to win trophies. Fair enough. Like
he's going to play for Pep.
Yeah, play for Pep. Exactly. We're going to we're going to benefit because whatever money we get will recoup a monster rebuild in the squad. So some of the players that we've talked about are likely to be shifted on, and we get a lot of new players in. The turnover might be of a significant one to really ramp up this new squad. But yeah, I do think if anyone's going to go, it would be him. I did think it would probably be Gordon. Gordon, I think, will stay now because I don't think Liverpool will come back in for him. And to be fair, I don't think he'll go to any other team in the Premier League. And I don't see him going abroad. So for me, I think Gordon stays. I think we have to keep Isak. Isak, for me, is our unsellable. Every other player in that team is sellable, even the likes of Tonali. And I hate that, the thought of that, but there's a chance we could recoup money if he goes back to Italy. Every other player is sellable apart from Isak. We have to keep him. We are not going to get another striker like him. There is not another striker like him in Europe. And we would significantly struggle with that. I'm going to go through some questions. Right, so let's go to... I have a feeling that wage increases started some unrest, and we need to move on. Some older destructive influences like Fergie did. I think we've kind of touched on that already with regards to Fergie being ruthless. With that, who are the big earners that you want to move on?
For me, starting from the back, I want to move Nick Pope on unless he's happy to be a number two. I think he'd be a cracking number two. I'm assuming he's on quite significantly high wages. So if he's not happy being a number two, I want to move Nick Pope on. I want to move Martin Dubravka on. I want to move Kieran Trippier on. I want to move Matty Target on.
Callum Wilson.
I want to move Callum Wilson on.
I don't think we're going to see the same Callum Wilson.
I want to move Miggy Almiron on.
Yeah.
If we see a fit Callum Wilson, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, but a fit Callum Wilson and a goal-scoring Callum Wilson are two very different things.
Yeah,
I'm not seeing enough from him. I know he's been out for 5 months, but I'm not seeing enough from him off the bench that says to me that he's back. Maybe he needs a goal. I don't know, but I'm not seeing enough of him coming off the bench. It just seems like he's going through the motions, almost just to ensure that he doesn't get injured. Players get like that when they've had lots of injuries. They're almost playing to get through games rather than playing with the intensity to go, I want to score goals. And I'm just not sure if we're going to get that. But we know he's gone at the end of the season.
I want to throw Adi, the keeper, in there as well that we picked up.
Yeah. He shouldn't have come in. But again, it shows kind of what was going on behind the scenes. Like that was a really poor decision, and clearly Eddie didn't want him either. But then that shows the disconnect between the manager and the backroom staff. And for me, bit of a controversial one. I want to see either Willock or Longstaff go, or both, because we're talking about being ruthless. We've got to be ruthless. We have to be. If we want to upgrade this team, we want to refresh this team. There's too many central midfielders. I don't think Joe Linton will go. I'd like to say Bruno will stay, and I don't particularly want to say I want rid of Bruno, but ideally I would like to see him stay. I want Tonali to stay. I want Louis Miley to stay. There's 4. Mm-hmm. There's 2 extras there. One of them, if not both of them, have got to go for me.
If you're ruthless enough, there's a number of these players that you can shift on and get some decent money from.
Yeah.
And so it would accumulate to you not necessarily having to spend or to sell a big player to be able to fund a rebuild. I agree with you. I think this is a big season for Willock. I think if he can't prove his fitness and doesn't put the type of performances in that we need, I think there is an argument to be ruthless and go, you know what, I think your best place going elsewhere and seeing what Palace are saying. 25
Mate,
million.
There's clubs out there who take him. 1,000,000% there's clubs out there who take him.
But
He's a good player.
this is all-
He's a good player.
This is all linking back to Eddie Howe again, guys. Is that will he let these players go? You know that's in the past he hasn't, and that's what linked into the comment that came up on screen earlier. The frustration of not letting go when he needs to.
That's a cracking comment. Yeah. That was the next one. Don't have confidence in any of the goalkeepers at all. No. I mean, Gillespie's got the best job in football. Being on a minimal wage, but not having to play any games. And yeah, you're right. Every other goalkeeper. I mean, look, Pope's the best out of the lot.
I think he's the best of a bad bunch.
Of the lot, but
yes.
He's one that you would continue to persist with for now. But yeah, you're right. This is the thing. Are we going to get a number one when we need a backup as well? Like, how many goalkeepers are we going to pick up? It's mad because there's a genuine argument that we need to buy more than one goalkeeper. Ruddy will stay, I think. I think Ruddy will get another year, just being third choice because of his experience and his know-how and all the rest of it, just being third choice. But there's an argument, like you said, there's two genuine goalkeepers that need to come through the door, which is mad.
Fighting over third, fourth, and fifth goalkeeping position. That's where the challenge is. But no one can touch Pope because we don't have anyone good enough to take Pope's mantle, and he needs to be replaced.
You can't tell me. And the more I think about it, and does this point back to Eddie? I don't know. You can't tell me that there isn't any clubs out there who would have took Martin Dubravka for a nominal fee. There's definitely clubs out there who would have took Martin Dubravka for a nominal fee. He's an international goalkeeper for Slovakia. There's got to be clubs out there who take him. But is it because Eddie wants to keep hold of him? Is it because we're thinking, we might need them? You never know. Back up. What is it? What's kept him here? And then obviously we bought Blakadimos in. Pope obviously is number one at present. John Ruddy got brought in. Like, we've got 5 goalkeepers, and that's not even counting the academy goalkeeper. So you're like, so what? They must look around in the training and just be like, what's going on here? What's happening?
Yeah, it's a wild one. I've got still got loads of questions through, but this one here, Andy Ford, can we afford to sack Howe? He signed a new 5-year contract last summer, according to reports. He's on 5 million a year, so compensation would be over 20 million. Would Hammer or PSR?
I would be. It's a great question from Andy. I would be horrified, absolutely horrified, if there wasn't something in there. A clause. I'd be absolutely mortified.
What clause do you mean?
I mean,
like if like a break clause that if it came down to termination, that you would be you'd get, say, a year's payoff, or you get whatever 18 months payoff or something like that kind of.
You can't just sign a 5 million contract, a 5-year contract, whatever it is.
Managers,
you can't.
Managers chopping.
No, true. But this is.
We can't be that stupid.
This is PIF. Yeah, I don't believe.
Lads, I'm not sure.
No, there has to be something. Let's see the paperwork.
There are managers that have made their life's work on payouts.
Yeah.
Okay, our previous manager before Eddie Howe was one of them, getting sacked from jobs.
Sam Allardyce.
Sam Allardyce, and getting paid out of full contracts. You think about Jose Mourinho at Tottenham and Man United and other clubs that he's been at. He's got full payouts from all of these clubs. They're just a few examples. I've got to be honest, lads. I'm not sure Eddie Howe would have agreed to a break.
What do you think? What do you think of the possibility, Pete? And this is something that's a really good question from Andy, and it's a good subject point. But Do you think that there's a possibility that there could be a clause in there, but it's on the understanding that if you finish below this position, then we're allowed then because Eddie, if anything, Eddie is a confidence person. Eddie's confident in his own ability, confident in what he can do. Would it be realistic? And is this why maybe we won't see anything happen until the end of the season, where they go, if you finish outside of Europe, we can let you go, little golden handshake, and it will be for X amount. Do you know what I mean? In terms of having those standards where this is the bar. I mean, let's be honest, there has to have been a bar this season, given that we got no European football, and we're going into this season, full of the joys of spring. Last season, we finished. Was it eighth? Was eighth, wasn't it? Yeah, we finished eighth. Seventh. Sorry, finished seventh last season, and that was with a whole boatload of injuries. So we're thinking we're going to push on this season. We're all expecting, I think it's fair to say, 4th, 5th this season. Would Eddie have agreed to something like that? Is that something that might keep him in the job until the summer?
We're not going to know. We're not either way, guys. We can speculate all we want, but none of us know.
It would. What I would say is that PRF would have played a blinder if they did agree to that. That would be my response to that. To be fair, Julie Husbands just put in there. You sack Eddie, it affects PSR, payoff of him and all of his staff as well. It could be expensive. And to be fair, it's a really, really good point, and something that hasn't really been talked about a lot, actually, which I think is important to be looked at. There's a couple here, lads. Put
on garden leave.
Oh God, not that again. Not that again. He'll have just as good a garden as what Ashworth's got. Actually, which brings me to another point. Actually, where is it? Because someone had put it in there, and I thought it was a really good point that they'd mentioned around Dan Ashworth. It was Gary D. I'd said it. I think I talked about it earlier when I was doing the audio storyboard of the situation. He put Eddie fell out with Ashworth and then fell out with Mitchell. There is one constant there, which he's referring to Eddie Howe. Now, I will question that Eddie Howe fell out with Ashworth, because Ashworth has also fallen out with the lot of Man United, Sir Jim, and various others. Because listening to the fallout of that situation, which is brought on his sacking, they've said mutual agreement. It's a sacking. There's apparently been fallout in that he wanted certain players and certain managers that Sir Jim and the others were not happy with. So when he came with his list of players, he wasn't decisive enough, and he didn't want the same players that other people wanted at the club. And there was lots of different fallout off the back of that that caused some rift in that camp. Now, he did exactly the same at Newcastle United because he didn't like, as part of reports say, he didn't like the relationship that Eddie Howe and Amanda Staveley had. And he felt he was kept out of the loop on a number of things. So we can point the finger at Eddie Howe there, but Ashworth's just proven in the last 5 months, or maybe a little bit longer, but that he's just as bad, if not, he could have been the reason why that fallout happened. And it might not be Eddie Howe. So it throws up a different perspective there. Because let's be honest, I think we all had that opinion. And I have to say, boys, that opinion there is one that added weight to the frustrations with Eddie Howe. Because if we went back and we looked at our shows through that January, there was a constant feel that Eddie Howe wants to control the signings. He wants to be in control of this. He doesn't want to listen to Ashworth with this. He wants to do this, that, and the other. And it was all Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. But actually, we're seeing now what's happening with United. We've seen what's happening with Ashworth at Man United and going, I'm now thinking, okay, was it Eddie or was it Ashworth? He's now done it at 2 clubs. You know, he's done it at Newcastle and at Man United, and only last 5 months at Man United. So there's a interesting one there. But I appreciate your comment, Gary. I can understand why you think that, but Ashraf, I think, is probably just as much to blame with that situation. And I think the conversation with Paul Mitchell has showed that all wasn't as bad as what was made out. Eddie Howe.
We'll see. Eddie Howe win 3 or 4 games, next 3 or 4 games, and then you get January transfer window to work with Paul Mitchell and produce some magic.
Definitely. Well, I'm gonna. There's so many questions, and a lot of them are kind of repeats of what we've already talked about or what we've already had. So we're gonna leave it there. There's maybe I'll go and maybe end on this one. Tom Dixon says 15 games in now. Predict where Newcastle United will finish the season.
Good luck with that.
What are we thinking, boys?
I think they could still, now don't shoot me here, I don't think I'm absolutely nuts, but they could still finish 5th, right? Do I think they'll finish 5th? I'm not so sure. But it's still possible. Because they are only like 5 points behind Forest, who are sitting in 5th now. Right? I think that was it when I was looking at it yesterday. But that's it. We keep going doing that. They're only 2 points behind. They're only 3 points behind. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why it has to change now, from now on. And but
what are you saying, that's 5th?
No, I'm not saying 5th. I'm saying they could finish high. I don't know, but I'm saying they could still finish as high as 5th. I see people saying 4th. I see 10th being mentioned a lot.
Nah.
Someone,
Ronald
says 4th.
Ronald, I'm sorry, man. Come on. We are not finishing 4th this year. There is no way. That means one of Arsenal, Chelsea, or Man City. Maybe with Liverpool.
Peter's saying between 6th and 10th.
Well, Liverpool, for me, they're winning the league. So I've said the other 3, one of those other 3 have got to have to jump out for us to get in. I'll take it. But
my question, I'm gonna bat one back to Tom Dixon. There is this
Conference League, as in the conference, the Vauxhall Conference.
No,
the way the form's going.
Would you end the season now and take Europa Conference?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yes.
That would represent 7th or 8th, wouldn't it?
People in the chat, let us know. Let us know your thoughts.
Oh, hang on. In addition to that, if you were to end the season now and 7th and got Europa Conference, would you still go into that next season with Eddie?
Oh, if we got Europa Conference.
Yeah.
If we got Europa Conference, Eddie stays in the job. Unless he walks away, which I think might well be the case. And I've said that for a while. But I think if we finish in Europe, I think they'd take him into the next season.
Yeah. My question back to Tom was going to be: is that an Eddie Howe Newcastle United, or is that another manager Newcastle United? Because I think it's 2 different answers, in my opinion. I think there's a possibility that a new manager in place could spark a revival. I think we're capable. I mean, I'm looking at the league table now. We're 5 points off 5th. So as Daz says, we're not a million miles away from it. I mean, if
you get the music,
Hey,
you know, we're 7 points off top four. We're 7 points. But if you said to me right now, if you waved the magic wand and you said, I can tell you now, Eddie Howe will still be Newcastle United manager at the end of the season, my answer's a lot different. I think if Eddie Howe's still the manager at the end of the season, right now, how I feel, I think we'll finish about 9th or 10th. That's where I think we'll end up. Because I don't believe that we're going to back him in the January transfer window, and I don't believe that we can turn things around sufficiently. Because I see this form that we've seen in the first 15 games repeating. I don't see us, you know, in the next 15 games, for example, I don't see us getting 10 wins, 2 draws, and 3 losses. I just don't see it. I just can't see it. I want to see it, but I just can't see it.
So what you're saying, Chris, if an Eddie Howe Newcastle United were to finish 5th, you'd be getting an Eddie Howe tattoo. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, it's a possibility.
Oh God,
Clip.
that's as good. You do realize that's as good as a yes.
Well,
You do remember that.
oh, and assuming the coefficient goes our way, it would have to be Champions League football. It would have to be.
Yeah. Give me that caveat. Yeah.
No caveat. Get the Europa Conference music, guys. Get that.
Yeah, we need the Europa Conference music.
Yeah. when we get into 8th and 7th, that music needs to be blasted. But
You should like that music.
Hey, and I mean, it's Europa Conference League football if we win the Carabao Cup, isn't it?
Yeah.
That'd be a statue as well. Really?
We'll all be singing woo woo. We'll be singing that Europa Conference music. Get it going. Okay, we'll leave those questions there. I just want to get your thoughts on this transfer related. Final thing from me, boys, unless you've got anything to jump in with afterwards. We are in desperate need of a right winger. We know that. Miggy and Murphy are just not up to scratch. Claire G says, Mbeumo is a pipe dream. We've got Peter Moore that says, I prefer Semenyo, but I take Mbeumo. Semenyo being at Bournemouth, having a fantastic season. Mbeumo scoring against us at the weekend. And Niall says, Mbeumo won't come to us after watching us at the weekend.
How many blame him?
Yeah, you can't really blame him. However, we have been linked with this man, okay, Johan Bakayoko of PSV. So Luke Edwards has dropped in today, an exclusive. I say exclusive; it has been linked as well from other sources. Newcastle really like Bakayoko and will pursue, but January deal very difficult. He has talked about in his piece today the fact that Newcastle United are looking beyond England and the Premier League for talent, and they are looking more further afield to Europe. Bakayoko presents a cheaper option and a cheaper alternative to the likes of Semenyo and Mbeumo, who could cost anywhere between 50 and 60 million per player. So they're saying that
Todd.
Well, no, don't do that. So Johan Bakayoko it is a player that that's been linked with those boys. A player that we've talked about before on Loaded Mag NUFC for Loaded Transfer shows. It's a player that has been linked with Newcastle previously. Would he be the type of signing that you would like to come into the club in January if we could get that deal done? Rumours to be about sort of anywhere between 30 to 35 million. He's only got 18 months left on his contract in January, very similar to a Mark Gay situation. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, boys?
Just on him, we what was it, about a month ago with Graham Bailey on, and Graham Bailey made a point to note that player from PSV. So because we didn't bring him up, it was him that brought him up. So talk about exclusives there, yeah. Stick with Funny Loaded Transfer Show. But I did take a look at him. He looks excellent, but he's playing in the Dutch league, and I do like him. And he's young. He he scored 5 goals this season and a number of assists as well. But how many players? Give me the alternative actually to this. How many to an Anthony and to even to Menta, who's come from the Dutch league as well, been on loan at Feyenoord last year and not done an awful lot. Anthony being a great example of not done an awful lot. Give me alternatives of players that have come from the Dutch league that have done really well. I can't think off the top of my head. I can't think of them, but that'll be my only worry. But he does look good. And you're saying for around 30 million. You're saying, Pete?
But that's just my assumption because
Yeah,
the piece says it would be significantly less than Semenyo and Mbeumo, who would be looking at
50
around
and 60
50 million for Semenyo, 60 million for Mbeumo. So I'm thinking the fact that he's got 18 months left on his contract, maybe 30, 35 million. Someone's put 25 to 30 million. I think maybe that would be maybe more the summer. I think 35 million would be good value for him. I had an interesting comment from someone on socials when I tweeted about it earlier, saying that Minter had a better season than him, and he actually didn't. So Minter scored in Eredivisie 10 goals, 5 assists, I believe. But Bakayoko got 12 goals and 9 assists in the same season. So we got 21 goal contribution, which is a good solid number for a player in the Dutch league to be picking up.
Kudus, where did Kudus came from the Dutch league, didn't he?
Ajax, yeah.
Ajax.
Yeah. So he's a good example of a one that's done well.
He's a good example. Yeah, he is.
Edson Alvarez, although he's playing for West Ham, he's not a bad player, and he has done well for West Ham.
I'm just talking to wingers. There's a number of players that come from the Dutch league that have done really well, but just on that right wing. So no, I take the chance if Paul Mitchell thinks that he's the one to go for. Yeah, well, why not? Nunny as well from Chelsea. Getting back away, he's
Madueke, yeah.
I think he came from the Dutch league as well. But yeah, no, I'd look at him. I consider him, Pete.
What are you thinking, Chris?
Yeah, I would definitely take Bakayoko, and I think he's a player we've talked about, as you say, Pete, and he's a player who's of interest. We've heard it now from multiple sources, which is interesting. The only problem is, obviously, I think the world and his wife know that we need a right winger. So in the summer, you're right. I think 25, 30 million is probably fair. I think it will creep. I think it might have the potential to creep over 40 million for him if we want him in January, which it's a lot of money. Would I take the risk on him? Absolutely, because we're in desperate need. We're in desperate need of a new player, regardless. But a new right winger for me should be a priority, and I would push the button on him because I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he ticks a lot of boxes, and I think he would represent good value by going outside of the Premier League. Because I think if you were to buy equivalent value in the Premier League, you're probably talking more 55, 60, which is probably your Semenyo, your Mbeumo. It's probably that kind of price. So yeah, I'd ask the question, but it's whether or not we're willing to do that, or whether or not we have sufficient outgoings in order to fund it. You would hope we'll be able to fund it, but the noises that we're hearing is that a couple need to leave, and hopefully that's the case. Hopefully that's something we can do. But
just want to answer Kim Cam's question here. What does Newcastle have to offer good players in Europe? Have you seen the bridges? The bridges. that is the attraction. The project as well. What?
To go on that as well, Kim Cam. I mean, things do look a bit grim at the moment. That's that is a given. However, what we do have to offer, and we are fortunate in that respect, is that we're part of the Premier League, and there's players who are playing abroad who want to play in the best league in the world, and Newcastle is an attractive proposition to most players because we're in the Premier League and fantastic fan base and etc. etc. What are you laughing at, Daz? What have I said?
I know what Pete's done there. He's lining you up, Chris. Go on, hit him, Pete.
What's he done? Oh no. Niall, mate. Do you know what? I'm not knocking Kubo. I don't know much about Kubo, but I did find it incredibly funny in the last transfer window that Kubo was the answer to all our problems, and everyone just kept talking about Kubo. And I'm not denying he's probably a good player, and obviously he's got the Isak link. He's played at Sociedad with Isak, but mate, I don't know. I don't know. I think I've just seen too much of Kubo. There's too many links to Kubo, and I think people have just thought that Kubo's the best thing since sliced bread, and I don't know. Funny if we signed them, but
the one thing I'll say about Johan Bakayoko, just really quickly, is that he ticks all the boxes because he has a little bit of everything that we need in a right winger. So not only is he rapid fast, but he's really good at dribbling. So he has that ability that Alan St-Maximin gave us, is that unpredictability with the ball. But he's a creator. Okay, nine assists last season. It's what we're lacking from that right wing. Miggy, who played so much football on that right wing, barely put an assist together in the whole time he played for the club. But what you're getting there is a consistent winner. And to be fair to him, Murphy does assist on that right wing, but he can't do anything else. He cannot do anything else. Whereas for me, on that right wing there, Bakayoko has a little bit of everything. And he's not the only option. There'll be others, no doubt, that we'll be talking about come transfer window. But he has a little bit of everything. He's about a year older than
What age is he?
Yankube Minte. He's 21. So
he's a great age.
He's a great age.
He's a great age. Belgian international as well. I think he's youth international. But look, he's a player that has the potential to be huge, and nobody's took a chance on him yet. And I genuinely believe that if we don't get someone like him in January, he's another one that will end up going somewhere else in the summer. Doku, you can throw Doku in there. I think he's probably a little bit more stable than Doku. Doku plays on the left for Man City. I think he's probably a little bit more stable. Doku is very much more of a trickster, very much more like a Alan St-Maximin, but I think Bakayoko is more of a stable, balanced player because he has a little bit of everything. So for me, I would. I think it'd be a smart move. That for me, boys, Bakayoko has clearly been on our radar for a while, but the fact that he's becoming more of a target makes me think that that's a Paul Mitchell signing. Yeah, that's a Paul Mitchell ice scout that says, I think he's the player that we need.
Pete, are you saying we're getting a right winger then?
Yeah.
Hey. By the way, I should have saved that for the shaky comment. I should have saved it for that.
Yeah.
Hey.
But apparently PSG, mate. PSG.
Oh.
They're heavy on him. And Dortmund, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Both of those teams are linked with him. But who knows? That's what I say. We're talking about Bakayoko now. However, could be very, very different. Well, that's another player that we're linked with.
I'll get that transfer window started, will you? Come on.
Hey, just secured a couple of good guests.
Ooh.
We're ready, boys. We're ready. It's gonna be good.
That answers Tom's question from earlier. Yes, there you go, Tom. Soon. Patience.
Of course.
They're coming. They're all coming over to Loaded. Loaded is going to be where you want to be talking transfer news and watching to see what we're going to be doing this window. Because unlike Chris, who doesn't think we're going to be active, I do.
So do I.
I want to be wrong. But Pete, I can't allow myself to be sucked in like I was last time. I like you last time, and as I was adamant that we were bringing someone in.
Even in deadline day.
Mate, I watched the bloody. I was watching the transfer thing, and I was like, "Nah, it's gonna any minute now. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen."
It's happening, boys. It's happening. It's happening.
It's happening this time.
We're bringing players in. But we've got to beat Leicester first.
Hey, Todd knows. And stay away from our ideas, Tom. Todd.
Yeah. And we don't want Managerial. Thank you, but no thank you.
Managerial, he's grown on me, you know.
Yeah, no, Pete.
I didn't want him in the summer. You know how I felt about him. He's grown on me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
He's looking. He's gone up in levels from what I think I was in a similar camp to you. I didn't want him, and I have seen him this season. I thought, oh, okay, But I think as well, what's put me off him is the fact that like apparently it was abundantly clear he didn't want the move. So that's lowered him a little bit for me as well. Now it's like, all right, well, you're having your little time at Chelsea now, great. But when you're out of favour and when you get replaced, we might not be at the door. That's all I'll say.
He's turning up and we're wrapping up, man. We're
2 hours
going,
in, man. 2 hours in.
Yeah.
Come on, Mitch.
Man. And Michael Palmer, I'm blaming Chris as well. And rumour has it, if we don't sign anyone, he's getting an Eddie Howe tattoo. But that's the rumour. That's the rumour. That's the rumour. I don't know for sure.
They can't be each other.
I like what Ali said there. It's just
this is going to be a game changer, Ali.
I love January. And I'm going to be saying that. I'm going to be saying that in January. I'm going to be saying that, Ali, in January. Hold me to it. I love January.
I love January.
Come back and say that again, Ali. If all that. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Daz. I see. Yeah, that's what I was putting on.
No, not top of the list. But he's moved up a couple of. He's moved up a couple of notches.
Look what Niall's put.
No, Todd. No,
Niall, you can't be creating these rumours. Look at this.
Boys, lock off the show.
It's getting silly now.
Niall, it's getting stupid. It's getting stupid, Niall.
Right.
Get Todd off the show.
Quality. Right, boys. I think we're bringing this to a close. I think it's clear where we stand now, is it? It's clear.
Yeah.
Big game.
Clear as mud.
4 games, you must. Newcastle United and Eddie Howe, you must.
Right. Away day is coming up on Thursday at 7:00. A new guest as well. So keep your eyes on that one. I think we started with Eddie Howe. We're going to end on the Howe as well. Come on, Eddie. Just do it, man. Get into them.
Come on.
How would you like that? Good night, everyone.
That's a loaded question, isn't it?